Everybody, it's Mike Cooch, and in this video, I want to talk to you about defining who it is that you want to attract, and essentially defining your avatar. So you've probably all heard that term before, avatar. Essentially, what we're going to try and do is create as detailed of a profile as we can about the person that we're trying to attract into our list. And this is one of those exercises that we all know that we should do. And we all tend to kind of blow through it really quickly, maybe not even do it as a formal exercise, maybe just kind of, in our heads assume that we know who we're going after. But I encourage you to really take the time to do this and do this right and do your homework and your digging around who it is that you're trying to attract, because I guarantee you that you are going to find some sort of insights that are going to give you better targeting in your ads, and they're going to give you better messaging in your communication, and that's just going to make everything that you're doing that much more effective. So this is kind of one of those things where we're laying the foundation, or sharpening the saw, or whatever it is, that if we do our homework now, we're giving ourselves a real advantage in the long run. So if you go back to our previous presentation, we talked about these 4 steps in creating your list building strategy. Step number 1 was identifying who it is that you want to attract. So that's what this is all about. Now, the goal here is to really get inside of their head and to know them really, really well. Okay, so again, this is not just a surface level exercise. This is an exercise where, as much as humanly possible, we want to be able to identify with the person that we're targeting, right? I mean, if you could be inside of the head of the person that you're targeting, then you would want to be, right? You would have a real advantage, of course, in your marketing if you knew, exactly what they were thinking, exactly what their concerns were, exactly what their goals were. We're not going to be able to do that, of course, get inside of their head. And the reality is that we're targeting large groups of people, and everybody is different, and that's important to, to always keep in mind in your marketing. But as much as possible, we are going to try to identify at least the characteristics of people that make up significant chunks of our audience, so that we can target them as effectively as possible, again, both with our ad targeting and with our messaging and our offers. And there will most likely be multiple people, okay? And we'll go through some examples of this in a minute, but you will most likely, again, have multiple targets that you're going after, and by identifying those individually, it's going to give you a real big advantage. So when it comes to developing our avatar, we're really trying to answer these 6 questions. And I shouldn't say that these are the only 6. Okay, if you go out and you look online and you look for resources on avatar development and kind of worksheets to walk you through the process, which we will include some of those here with our presentation, but there's all kinds of different versions of this, and there's slight variations in the questions that people have you answer. That's all good stuff. I think what's most important here is just that you're doing your homework. The more that you're digging and the more that you're learning about your audience, the better off you are. So it's not to say that our 6 questions are the law. Again, feel free to go out there and dig around and look at different resources, and some of those may speak to you and help you, and that's great. But what we're generally looking for is, who are these people? And when I say who are they, I mean, like demographics, right? So demographics, they are, men in the United States, age 52 to 65, upper income, own a home, things like that, right? So that's that kind of demographic information. It's very important in your targeting, because in Facebook or in many other ad platforms, you can say, hey, look, I only want to target men that are 50 and over that have incomes of at least X. So right there, you can really narrow in your targeting, which just gives you a fantastic advantage over most of the advertising options just a handful of years ago. But to then really make your advertising really effective, you've got to speak to them, right? You've got to speak to them, to their goals, their desires, their concerns. And so that's what we really want to know, is that, psychographic, right? Demographic is kind of the data, the numbers. The psychographic is what's in their head. So we want to identify what are their goals and desires. Okay, so these are the positive things that they have in mind that they are working towards, right? I want to own a vacation home. I want to, be fit, whatever it is. So these are the things, the positive things that they're looking forward to, that they are moving towards. Okay. Step number 3 is, what are their problems or pains? And those are the things that they are moving away from, right? So, I want to drop this fat, right? If I'm trying to lose weight, that's the difference between, a problem or a goal and a desire. The goal and the desire could be, I want to become a lean, mean, runner or whatever it is. That's a positive goal, a positive desire. Whereas the very similar outcome could come from the mindset of somebody who says, I want to lose this stubborn fat that I hate and makes me, not look good and stuff like that, right? That's an example of kind of understanding inside of the minds of different people. There's different things happening, right? Some people are moving more towards specific goals. Some people are moving away from pains. If you're a Tony Robbins fan, he talks about how this is, major kind of human behavior to understand, is that we're either moving towards pleasure or away from pain, and that the more powerful motivator is moving away from pain, which sounds really negative, but that it is, that we are always trying to protect ourselves and move away from things that we perceive to be hurting us or harming us or holding us back, and that is actually the most powerful motivator. So that's why when you see, people doing marketing that you perceive as kind of that negative messaging, that's why, because people, respond to that. So just understanding that about your audience is incredibly important. And then number 4 is, what are their needs? And I want to clarify what I mean by needs as opposed to goals and desires and problems, okay? So let's say that I'm selling to somebody who is, a Fortune 500 executive, just to give an example. Fortune 500 executive, their goals could be that we want to increase sales by, 25%. Their problems could be that we're having a hard time recruiting salespeople, okay? Their needs are the things that have to be there in any solution. In order for a solution to qualify, it must meet their basic needs. So for that Fortune 500 executive, their needs could be, it's something that my board will approve. It could be that it has to be within a budget of no more than $100,000 a year. It could be that it has to be able to be distributed to our global workforce. So it has to be something that, we can do virtually, right? So those are all needs, right? Those are like the minimum kind of criteria or hurdles that something must address in order for it to be a viable option. Right? So we've all got needs, right? Whether those are personal needs or needs related to our work or whatever it is, there are certain things that, hey, I'm not going to buy that car unless it has at least a safety rating of X for my kids, right? Or I'm not going to buy that car, unless it gets at least X miles per gallon because, my budget can't afford anything else, right? So that's different from a goal or a desire where, what I really want is a red sexy convertible that makes me look good. So if I can find the red sexy convertible that also has the child safety rating and also gets the gas mileage I'm looking for, then I've got a real winner. Okay, so it's really important, again, psychologically, to understand the difference between those 3 things. And then 5, what are their objections, right? We've all got objections, especially to these millions of marketing messages that we are hit with throughout the year. We've got objections that prevent us from considering an option or from ultimately, buying an option. So what are those things that you're going to need to be able to address with them? And then number 6, where can you find them? Where can you find these people? And, in particular, what I mean for list building is, where can you find them online? Okay. What, websites are they visiting? Okay, what topics are they out there learning about, right? So when we try and create ads and target them, right now we're focused on Facebook initially, right? But we will ultimately, you will ultimately expand outside of Facebook. But even within Facebook, if you know that they are, the people that you're targeting are reading Cooking Light magazine every day, well, then you can go inside of Facebook and you can target readers of Cooking Light magazine, right? So also, by knowing where you can find them, if you know that there are readers of Cooking Light magazine, you can go and research what does Cooking Light Magazine already know about their avatar, right? Because if you're selling to essentially the same avatar as Cooking Light, you can get a lot of great information from a business that's already established like Cooking Light Magazine. Okay, so in order of priority in terms of where we're going to get information about our avatar, it goes like this: customer, prospects, third-party research, right? Ideally, if we already had thousands of customers of our product that now we're trying to go out and build lists, and grow our audience for, well, that's the perfect source of information, right? If we have 1,000 happy customers that we can already identify and look at the characteristics of them and see what it is that made them respond to our offer, well, that's the best source of information that we're going to be able to get. So if you already have some customer information, then that's fantastic. Start there, right? And you can even survey those customers, ask them, why did they get on your list? Why did they invest in your products? What do they like? What do they not like? Who else were they considering, purchasing from as they were evaluating, your solution, right? That's the best information, because that is the information from people who are already proven winners for you. Okay. Second is prospects. So maybe you have a nice big list of prospects. Maybe you've sold something to them at some point in the past. Maybe you haven't sold anything to them at all, ever, but they have come to you. They've raised their hands. They've said, yeah, I'm interested, but maybe they haven't bought from you. And that's a great way to get some additional information. What is it that has prevented them from buying from you? What is it in their goals, in their pains, in their needs that you have not adequately addressed? What are their objections that you have not adequately addressed? So that's a fantastic second source of information. And then third is third-party research, right? If we're going into a new market from scratch, then we don't have customers, we don't have prospects yet, then really we just have to do third-party research. We've got to get as well informed as we can about our market before we start spending money on advertising and creating content and creating solutions. And there's a couple of resources that I think are really handy for this. One is just magazine or website media kits. Okay, media kits are what websites and magazines package up to help sell their advertising. Okay, so if Cooking Light Magazine is going to Ford Motor Company and saying, hey, we have a huge audience of people that are making car buying decisions in the next year, you would be an excellent advertiser in our magazine, then Ford wants to know, well, okay, tell us about them, right? So Cooking Light Magazine has done all of the research on their audience and presents to Ford, hey, our readers are these ages, these incomes, they live in these places, they have 2.3 children, they're college educated, all that type of stuff. So you can typically go to any magazine or website and find a media kit that gives you the information about their business. So this gives you a huge advantage. If you know that the audience that you're going after is an audience that's already, very interested in certain topics and certain products, then you can go and find a lot of information about the audience that you're going after. So if you literally just go into Google and search for like a magazine name, so Cooking Light Magazine Media Kit, or honestly, if you just type in magazine media kits into Google, you'll be surprised at all of the information that pops up there. And then the second is Audience Insights from Facebook. Okay, Audience Insights is just this amazing market research database that you have access to through your Facebook business advertising account. And with Audience Insights, it's a similar process. So if I know that somebody is interested in Cooking Light Magazine, then I can go to the interests in Audience Insights, type in Cooking Light Magazine, and then when I do that, Facebook Audience Insights is going to present to me information that they have about the people who visit the Cooking Light Magazine Facebook page, right? So they obviously have tons and tons of information about all of us and what we're doing on Facebook, and it's a great way to get information about the people who are visiting certain websites or interested in certain topics. So absolutely make sure that you are going in and digging into Audience Insights. That's a super, super useful research tool. So between these sources, you're going to have a really, really nice base of information to get started with. If you want to take it to the whole next level, You can, do things like Ryan Levesque's Ask formula, where essentially you're running surveys to people to try and get them to tell you, what their concerns are, what their problems are, what their goals are, things like that. So essentially you're doing paid advertising to audiences of people to try and get them to, answer these survey questions. That's not something that we have ever really spent a lot of time on, but that is an additional step that you can take. I've personally found that by going through the process that I just outlined here, and working on the avatar worksheets that I'm about to show you, we get plenty of good information to be able to start targeting our audience and learning what is working from the, working firsthand by putting ideas out there and testing them. So as an example here, this is an avatar worksheet that we work, and as you can see, it's just super simple. But what we like to do is identify the person, the role that they have, if we're going after somebody, in B2B sales. If not in B2B sales, then, we just kind of give them give her a name, right? In this case, maybe it's, super mom or something like that, right? This is a woman who's a mom of 3 kids, but she's also got this incredible, powerful career and yada, yada, right? I'm just making that up. I'm not saying that that's who this is necessarily, but, that's what we do. We try to identify, we try to visualize that person, literally put a picture to that person. So in this case, all we did was go into Google Images and just like search and try and find a woman that we thought, okay, this represents who it is that we're talking about. And again, it's all just about making that connection in your mind to the people that you're targeting in your audience. And then we're trying to define, we're trying to answer all of those questions that we had in that list, those 6 questions of things. We're trying to identify them. So starting with who she is, well, she's 52 years old. She's a VP of Sales Incentives at a Fortune 500 company. That is a real role, VP of Sales Incentives. Has worked at major corporations her entire career, takes her career very seriously, very high energy, sociable, and sales oriented, responsible for a very large incentive budget, has to spend her budget to keep her budget, so she wants to make sure that she actually uses her money each year, needs to show a clear ROI on her spending though, is very numbers driven, wants sales incentives that are exciting to her sales team, lives in a mansion in the St. Louis suburbs, and is a member of a prestigious country club, right? We can get as detailed as we possibly can about this person, and I encourage you to get as detailed as you can, in any way that's useful to you. But I show you this example because what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare and contrast this to another avatar that we could be selling to for the exact same product that we're selling. So in this case, what we're selling is corporate gifts. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of making this up, but let's just say we had an e-commerce store where we sold corporate gifts to the VP of sales at big Fortune 500 companies. And again, if you've never been in the Fortune 500 world and the big sales team management world, you may not know that a VP of sales at a Fortune 500 company will spend a lot of money every year on gifts to incentivize their sales team, right? So if you're the top seller, you could win a car, you could win a vacation, anywhere in the world, all expenses paid with you and your family. On the lower end, you could win things like tickets to, concerts. You could win, wardrobe allowances. Like, they spend money on just all kinds of stuff, and they're always looking for what's that carrot that we can put out there that will get our sales team that much more fired up to close deals, right? So this is actually a very big business. And so this could be one person that we're selling to, right? The Fortune 500, 52-year-old woman, high-powered, has a prestigious country club membership in St. Louis, okay? So keep that one in mind. But we could also be selling to this woman. She's an emerging entrepreneur. She's 39 years old. She's the founder of a retail fashion blog and store. She's urban. She's sophisticated, right? She lives like in New York or San Francisco. She's got an MBA from a top school. She takes her career very seriously, very high energy, sociable, and sales oriented, just like our last one. But she built her company from scratch. It's her baby, okay? And she has a sharp eye on budget, but she spends it smartly to boost sales, right? She's an entrepreneur. She's not doing any budget shenanigans to make sure she keeps her budget for the next year, right? She's not playing any internal politics to make sure that she spends all the money that's been allocated to her. She's going to spend as little as she can to get the results that she wants, right? She gives gifts to affiliate partners, suppliers, advisors, other entrepreneurs who are impactful to her, right? She wants to give gifts that are unique and reflect well on her brand and her personal brand, right? She wants to give something that is special and memorable. And honestly, she probably is not going to measure the ROI of these incentives or gifts, right? She just has kind of a gut feel on this, right? She wants to make sure that what she's giving to that supplier of hers, kind of speaks to them personally. It reflects on her personally. It's memorable so that that supplier is going to think, you know what, I really like doing business with her, and I'm going to, make sure that I'm treating her real well, that type of thing. And she regularly visits, Inc.com, fastcompany.com. She has no country club membership, nor is she in any way interested in that at all, right? That's all old school stuff that is out of her world. So I hope that you can see these are, again, two avatars that we could be selling the exact same products to. We could be building the exact same, list around, but we are targeting two very different people with two very different backgrounds and very different goals, very different challenges or problems, and very different needs. Okay, so by understanding that, we would craft two totally different messages in terms of our ads and our offers that we were putting out there to build our list. Okay, so I hope that being able to see the differences between those two avatars makes it pretty clear to you how important this exercise is. Because if all you're doing is putting out one big, broad, general message to, millions of people, and within those millions of people, you really have 5 different distinct avatars, you're just wasting a whole heck of a lot of money. And that's not a position that any of us want to be in. Okay, so take this seriously. Take your best shot at it. At the same time, don't get completely bogged down in it. This isn't something that you should, spend weeks on and not be able to move forward with your list building campaigns, right? But it is something. Spend a solid, afternoon on it or a day on it, right? This weekend, take a good chunk of your Saturday, and instead of, watching TV, sit down and research, for several hours. Who is this that I'm targeting? What can I learn about them? And we're going to work on message development for this avatar next. But, just try and capture who they are first, answer those 6 questions, and then we will get started with our list building, and you will continue to evolve this avatar over time, so that you just, improve it as you go. And then you will learn in your marketplace that you have important, secondary avatar targets that you may not have known about when you got started. And as you learn that, you're going to want to capture those so that you have a clear distinction between them. Okay? So really, really important exercise. Make sure that you take it seriously, spend some time on it, and get as much information as you can about the people that you're targeting to inform the content that you're putting out there and the offers that you're putting out there to get people on your list.